Where are the land swaps? They needed clarifications on Clinton's vague parameters. Again, Clinton, a superpower, just imposing these restrictions, take it or leave it, on occupied people, I think seeking clarifications. And not only that, Arafat said, I'm willing to go to you right now and meet you. It wasn't like
after jerking off for 2 weeks. Yeah, that was the point. The Israeli delegation had already accepted the Clinton parameters, essentially. Now, the only parts where they quibbled were that some parts of the of land that would be swapped, and the Israeli delegation was like, well, how could we swap this if we have this? Like, a couple of these things don't seem to work. That is true. I've read these entire things before. Okay? And on the Palestinian side, after Arafat hopped on a jet and he flew all over the world, and everybody has said as much, after the time had expired by, I think, weeks to accept this, he sent a letter back saying, like, oh, well, of course I'll accept these, but obviously I need to know, like, what this or that or that or that means, whatever. He didn't accept anything. In classic Arafat manner, he didn't agree to a single thing. He said he needed clarification on everything, and he was already delayed in his response, and everybody knew that he was never going to accept it. He didn't accept anything.
Okay, here's from the letter. Okay, you ready? Yeah. Are you ready for this? I know, quoting the letter that you yourself cited from Israel. Let's see what they said, okay? They said, it states, quote, the permanent territorial arrangements would have to include annexation that exceeds the numerical territorial scope indicated by the president. So number one, we need more land. Okay? How much land? I'm not saying we're going to have more. Wait, hold on.
No, wait. Can you just read? Let's just focus on something quick. Can you read that quote again? Read that quote again and tell me what you think it says.
No, I'm not going to read it.
No. Read the quote. That quote, all you're doing is proving my point to anybody that's literate. Yes, they're saying that based on what's in the Clinton parameters, if you want us to have this thing, it's exceeding the total scope of what you said we're supposed to transfer. It's not possible. These were the only Israeli.
They're saying that they want more land.
No, they're saying that it doesn't work. That the Clinton parameters had a little bit of contradictory stuff, and so they have to figure out like what they mean here. But they accepted basically in good faith that it wasn't.
Okay, so hold on, let me just give my side, and then you can give your side. Okay?
You're joking. Your quotes are supporting my argument.
Okay, yeah, sure they are. Okay, so number one is they wanted more land. Number two, quote, in the field of security, the presidential ideas differ from the Israeli ones with regard to the Palestinian police and security force, the mandate of the international force, and the monitoring of the non-militarization of Palestine. In other words, they want more Israeli presence. Number three, it also calls on Clinton to remove any ambiguities in his parameters for the right of return of the refugees. That is, quote, any entry of refugees to Israel shall be a matter of sole sovereign Israeli discretion. So on all three key issues when it comes to borders, security, that's sovereignty, and refugees, they don't accept the Clinton parameters. So they said yes, but we don't agree with these three major things. So for you,
that's not what you just read. That's like you're just not. Okay. I don't know what to. Yeah, I'm not even sure. Yeah, jeez.
Yeah. Okay.
This would be a great opportunity.
So meanwhile, as far as Arafat, he agreed to no right of return and was just seeking to get refugees.
Absolutely not.
State. Yes, he only wanted.
Arafat agreed to no right of return. It's such an unbelievable statement.
You can read it in page 400, expressing his concern.
Page 400 of what?
Can I finish?
Can you tell me what you're reading out of, please? If you're gonna live in quotes, at least. Yeah, page 400 of what?
Clayton Swisher's book.
No, I don't. What's that called?
That's literally on the Camp David Accords. It's the most famous conversation.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so all right, so.
And he says that Arafat gave up the right of return.
No, he wanted the right of return only for the Palestinian state, which is like giving it up from Israel, which would risk its demographic nature, correct?
There's no shot that Arafat ever agreed to this, but...
Okay, all right, so yeah, you don't know what you're talking about.
Clearly not, yeah.
So that's number one. So he just wanted reassurance that it wouldn't be under Israel's prerogative that Palestinians could return to the Palestinian state. Number two, Clinton said 94 to 96% of West Bank with 1 to 3% swaps. Arafat reasonably asked, which land are you talking about? Number three, period of Israeli withdrawal he thought was too long because he feared that Israel would renege like they always do and entrench themselves. So he simply asked for clarification. Is the period you're talking about one of the fixed parameters or not? Those were the major points. He agreed to immediately return. So now you can weigh both sides and you can make your assessment who has the greater weight. To me, it's clear that the Israeli side had much greater weight, where the Palestinians are willing to give up their right of return, which is like, I would never give that up, but they are willing to give that
up. The actual, like, you can read both like, the reservations. I think it's like a 22-page PDF. I don't know why you would have to read somebody else's summary
that's for the Israelis. That's not the summary that I read. That's my notes that I read to you.
Oh, it sounded like you were just reading from Clayton Swisher. I don't know why you read his summary
Clayton
of.
Swisher was the citation for an expert in the field. I don't.
We don't need an expert. You literally just have
do.
the document.
Yeah,
they
I
just
do.
have the PDF.
No, no,
Like,
no.
you just read what the Israeli
no,
reservation.
That's not what scholars do. That's not what scholars do.
Oh, my bad.
Scholars do
Selected
primary
quote, yeah.
and the secondary sources. Okay.
This might
and
be a
then
great
number-
opportunity. This is the Q&A. I want to say a couple of quick housekeeping things. First, we were very excited. Tiger King, this is for real. The audio might not be perfect tomorrow. I'll give you a heads up. It'll be a 15-minute call. It will be for real, though. So we're excited about that. Destiny versus Tiger King on Trump versus Harris. You don't want to miss it. Check it out tomorrow. It'll be live. And that's 4 p.m. Eastern. With that, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your patience. We're gonna
Fucking
jump right
kill
into
these
these questions.
boxes.
Yeshua the King says Palestinians are the most privileged, oppressed group. Why? Because I don't see anyone marching or speaking out for North Koreans, a true open-air prison.
Whose question is that for? I'm assuming that's for me, but
Either of you can respond, if you want.
so, as Norman Finkelstein says, you can't predict which issue in the world is going to attract the attention of people. For example, it was in the 1980s South Africa, and defenders of apartheid South Africa would always do whataboutism and say, what about all the other terrible regimes in Africa? Look how big bad, look at the neighborhood we live in. Exactly arguments that Destiny has raised in the past about Israel and Palestine. So you can't predict that, but this is standard whataboutism. As far as the differential, as far as support, I mean, there's not even any comparison. Historically, Israelis have had the support of very powerful factions, a very powerful Zionist lobby, which influences actual policy. And just now, in the last few years, you have awareness, and unfortunately, it's taken a genocide to really create this momentum, and I hope that it continues.
So coming in from, any thoughts, Stephen?
No.
Mohammed says, Dr. Goodbye. Let's see. He says he's a fan. Jordan says, gotcha. Mohammed says, gotcha. Looking for more sincere questions rather than insults. History Speaks says, in the birth of the Palestine refugee problem, page 28, Morris notes the Yishuv planned to deny citizenship to 45% Arab minority to make it easier to potentially expel them in the future. So Destiny is wrong on Yishuv accepting Arab minority.
What was I? Say that. Re-say that.
Now he's going to be confused.
How the fuck do
They
you kill
said,
these boxes?
in the birth of the Palestinian refugee problem, so the book, they say page 28, Morris notes the Yishuv planned to deny citizenship to the 45% Arab minority to make it easier to potentially expel them in the future.
The
So
point is they
Destiny
never
wrong.
accepted them as the 45%. That's the point. History Speaks, by the way, you blocked him. You should unblock him, and you should actually debate him on this topic.
Let's-
He's an actual
let me
academic.
finish History Speaks' super chat though. They say, so Destiny is wrong on Yishuv accepting Arab minority. Thoughts, Stephen?
I can't argue with a single quote. I don't know what I'm supposed to like. I
It's
can't
an
like
academic who's
the
made a
issue
conclusion.
like I would also need to know the year at which this was said because it dramatically changes like how would you interpret a particular thing. Also, I was curious. I bought this the book over the Camp David stuff. I was curious. Which page did you say it said that Arafat agreed that refugees could come back, but only to because in his letter to Clinton he doesn't say that.
Let me. Well, what does he say? Tell me.
I have many questions related to the return of refugees to their homes and villages. I have a negative experience with the return of displaced Palestinians to the West Bank and Gaza during the interim period.
Oh.
Because the modalities remained tied to an Israeli veto, not one refugee was allowed to return through the mechanism of the interim agreement, which required a quadripartite committee of Egypt, Jordan, Israel, and Palestine to decide on their return. So it seems like he's explicitly not saying that he accepts
So
them
what
not being
he's-
able to go back to
he's-
Israel.
You're right that he's not explicitly saying it, but he is implicitly accepting the idea and just trying to get that in the West Bank and Gaza. Correct? Do you accept that, or is that too far a stretch for your brain to understand?
But no, he's explicitly not accepting it.
Okay. He's trying to. He's saying how do we know? Because the Clinton parameters were that the entire point of the Clinton parameters is that the refugees are supposed to go to the Palestinian state, and any resolution should not threaten the demographic of Israel. So, did he counter any of that? Did he say he has any problem with that?
He didn't agree to anything.
He's seeking clarification on what the Clinton parameters
Yes, but he
say.
didn't agree to anything. He's seeking.
he-
Arafat is
he
always
said
seeking
yes.
clarification. Even quoting your own author, he says that as
I
with any
know-
other
I know,
contract or
Arab-
important binding document affecting the fate of nations, it would have been
Because-
unconscionable
because-
for either the Palestinians or the Israelis to make any commitments to Clinton's guidelines without having the clearest understanding of all the terms presented. So this idea
so
that
both
this idea
Israel and
that
Palestinians,
Arafat
yes.
accepted any of this was not true. It wasn't true. Thank you. Thank you. I agree. Yes.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead. Keep going.
So coming in, bro.
Oh,
do
okay, now the
appreciate
next
it.
question.
The globalist says,
Oh, but
yo,
you
To
didn't
be clear,
respond
you
to
said that
his
he
speech.
accepted it. He
You
didn't
didn't
accept it.
respond
You
to
lied
his
about that,
speech.
right? Yeah.
You, no, I did not. I told you what Clayton Swisher has, like a scholar, has understood about it. So, number two is...
So you didn't say that he accepted
wait, okay,
no
let's-
refugee.
why-
Okay.
You're literally trying to run away from History Speaks. That's what you're trying to do. You block the guy. You should debate him. He'll talk to you about the kill ratio thing that you've obsessed
No,
over.
I'm good. I don't.
Genocide,
Talking to fake
genocide.
scholars is already like
one?
driving me insane. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
this is from the globalist says, yo, mask just lifted there on Dr. Hashmi. Of course, the Arabs would want genocide. Is what he just said meaning he thinks they did try to genocide us? Why does he complain?
I never said that. I said the exact opposite. That this is every accusation, Zionist accusation, is Zionist confession, because historically, by the way, Muslims and Arabs have not engaged in the pogroms and the mass slaughters and forced conversions that were the case in Europe. And anti-Semitism is unfortunately a modern phenomenon that is unfortunately a large response that doesn't justify it to the conflict. And as soon as you resolve this conflict, you'll see that things improve. So this kind of blinkered view that you have of Arabs and Destiny has this. He has the view that you can't have a one-state solution because if you have the one-state solution, the Arabs are going to slaughter the Jews, just like the South African whites said we can't extend the right of voting to blacks because they will slaughter us. So that's just historically.
Do you think
untrue.
that a two-state
And-
solution is unfair? Would you reject all two-state solutions?
I do not reject all two-state solutions, but the problem is that there's a contradiction in Zionism whereby they can't really accept. So it's the paradox. Which
Well,
we
sure,
see
no,
in
but I'm
Iran.
asking. Let's say tomorrow there was
on.
like on the table there was a two-state solution that would go back to the '67 borders. It'd be a full independent Palestinian state. They'd even get their highway or underpass to connect the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Do you think that would be a fair or acceptable resolution?
I mean, fair or acceptable? I would say it's acceptable, and I would say, given the circumstances, it would be, like I said, acceptable, and I would accept it. As far as fair, I mean, history was not fair on the Palestinians.
Okay. And what do you think should be done about the division of like Al-Aqsa Mosque? Do you
But
think
I-
Jews
that-
should
but
still be
I am-
allowed
but
to
I am-
pray at the Western Wall?
Well, I think if you're going to go for rest everything you have on the UN partition plan that was non-binding, the only binding one that Destiny wants,
I never
then
said
you should
it
also
had to be binding.
Yeah. No, every time that a General Assembly resolution is brought up in other situations, then you say they're non-binding. You said that in Lex Friedman in debate.
It depends
so
on the
it's just
context of
showing
the